Hey everybody, Jimmy with the Triple C Collective,
Collin here.
we are ready to go far, far away in Ahsoka Part 6 with you.
Oh yeah,
And I mean, dude, let's start. Let's get on that whale travel express.
exactly. It's so dope. Yeah, so they're in the Purgle's mouth, like we left off in last episode, and they're going through hyperspace, but it's like a little different, like
Yeah.
the normal hyperspace you've noticed, you've seen in Star Wars past.
Which is cool because the difference is that we were seeing a manufactured hyperspace before, and now we're seeing a natural traveling hyperspace, which is the only reason of like what I can think of is like why
Oh
you
no,
would
I
think.
think it's because they're going to a different galaxy compared. Because I even
Oh,
think
that could
there
be
was
true
different
too.
colors I noticed even when um, the other crew was going, the Dark Side crew,
Oh, when
basically.
the Eye of Sion
Yeah,
moved.
there's a little bit in the background that shows that color too. So I do think it's just from that, but also I like the idea of it just being the natural because we're seeing it first from Ahsoka and Hugh Yang's perspective because they're traveling in the ship in the mouth of
Yeah,
the Purgle. Yeah, kind of an awesome little what is it way to get around a loophole. It's a
yeah,
little loophole they figured out. So yeah, they're just kind of hanging out in the ship, and they're talking. And Hu Yang like offers to tell a story, and she's like, you know what, not now. And they start talking about Sabine and what happened with her. And Hu Yang kind of sees it the way I saw it, which is like I think that was her only choice. Is like perhaps for Sabine that was literally the only choice. Like he literally says that, and then
mhm.
Ahsoka's like a choice she made for herself, and then Hu Yang's like, that's what you fear, that you know what I mean? And then she actually takes that. She takes that advice and
Yeah,
she's, you know what? Tell me a story. I got time. And then
yeah,
that's when he hits us with like the classic line of like in a galaxy far, far away. And
yeah.
it
And
makes
get
you wonder almost like do the wills, which was like the idea of Star Wars was told by this future race of people called the wills.
Yep,
Maybe they got their information from Hu Yang,
that'd be great. That'd
right?
be great. I mean, like he get it, like that whole speech, and then where
Considering
he
how old he is already, why can't he live another? You know,
like, I mean, and he's still what? I think he said he was still like 79% like original parts, like in
right?
episode one of this. And he's hold on. So he's that old with that many original parts still? Like,
Right.
dude, like short of like truly getting blown to smithereens, like the guy's got a chance to keep on living another
Oh yeah.
1,000 years at
Either way,
least.
maybe they can just take his systems or whatever and learn from it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was a cool little nod in which they've been doing a lot in this series. Dave Filoni, who just became the what is it, the
Chief creative officer.
chief, yeah, CCO, yeah, yeah, chief creative officer, which is basically like Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That basically the only person it seems like he answers to is Kathleen Kennedy on
which he
the
just
like
signs checks. I feel like at this point.
yeah on the Lucasfilm side. Well, it's basically Kevin Feige only talking to Bob Iger now, like only having to or like back when Marvel had like four different levels of things. And like Kevin Feige was kind of running it all, but he had like 14 other people to answer to. They
Yeah,
cut all that red tape now, and like he just
yeah.
directly
And
goes to Bob
instead of
Iger.
coming in at the end and trying to, polish
Yeah,
what you already have, he's going to be able to work from the beginning to kind
yeah.
of weave the story together in a major way, which I'm excited for.
Which is something that like you kind of needed
Yeah,
from
oh, for sure.
for Star Wars
It
now
would
at
have
this
helped the
point.
sequel trilogy like immensely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like having the Star Wars thing. I mean, I'm just thinking of like how cool Clone Wars was right off the bat, and it was created and executive produced by George Lucas, along with like being co-showrun by Dave Filoni.
Right.
So like,
I mean, yeah, George Lucas is pretty much handpicked Dave. It
yeah,
seems
yeah,
like to be his successor.
yeah,
So
and
yeah, it's really cool. So anyway, we're cut time kind of to the them pulling up on a planet, like traveling through hyperspace still, and like Sabine's cell, and but
yep,
they're like pulling up on this planet called Peridia, basically.
yep,
And, it's like this ancient planet. There's ruins on it. There's But before they even get to the planet, there's like this Purrgil graveyard that's
Yeah.
kind of, which is like super cool to see. Like it's like, oh, so this is where they end their life cycle basically.
Right, and that's like all that stuff like Balon's just unloading on us. But that planet Peridia looks like the planet like Saturn.
Right, but instead of
it,
a ring of
but
dust that's like from rocks and asteroids around it breaking up in the atmosphere, it's from the the
the
bones
dead
scattered,
remains
yeah,
carcasses of
Purrgil,
Purgils. Like that's where they
which is
go to
pretty
die.
sweet. Yeah, which shows this planet is not like somewhere where life is about to be. Uh,
Or some like majorly thriving planet.
yes, exactly.
Not even something that you can live on. Like you're not really like thriving here.
Yeah,
It
even if
doesn't
you're
seem
living here, it's not going to be fun. Which,
like. Yeah.
yeah. So they pull up into the atmosphere finally, and we see some like statues in the distance, and they're like screaming, like they're kind of creepy statues,
Yeah.
which like for sure. And then they pull up to like a basically a henge, like a reflex point at this planet, and there's like these three night sisters, and one of them's called Lachesis, and she's got like the rounded hood or like flat on top.
Okay.
She's played by Gerald Prescott, and then you got Clothow, played by Claudia Beck. Sorry, she's got the pointed hood, and then Actropow, which is Gerald Prescott, and she's got the 2 points on her hood.
Okay.
I thought these were really cool, the Night Sisters, because they called them the Great Mothers first of all, and they're kind of like the Greek myth, like of the three fates, basically.
Yeah.
Like they're you can't separate one from each other. They're all threading. They're all weaving the thread of life, and
Yeah.
even the way they use those little red bands to trap Sabine eventually, because which is cool. Another point, which is they smell basically the Force on
Yeah.
their guest, and they look at Sabine. But I wondered here if maybe it was actually Balon that was giving off that energy, and he was just able to play it off a little better because they had Sabine to kind of be like, "Oh, it was her." You know what I mean?
No, because I think I believe Balon when he says that he's more than just like, or that he's like striving to be more than just like Sith or Jedi right now. So I believe Balon when he says that, and so if Balon believes it, I think he would give off that essence of something elseness there. But
Yeah,
I think almost you could even, if you want to call it even a flaw, but like Sabine's almost desperation to get this Jedi-ness to her is probably stinking off of her to like the
I
mother.
just I just assumed because I was like, she's barely a Jedi. You know what I mean? Like the only reason I thought that was because it's like they talk about it. There's another point that comes up later that Thrawn brings up, but it's not like they're specific in what they sense because it'll
Right.
happen later where they're sensing another Jedi coming, which they could sense from a long ways away. So it's interesting. But
Right.
yeah, I see what you mean that you believe Balon when he says he's no Jedi.
Yeah. When he says that and that like he's like looking for something more like I truly do believe him
I
because
kind of don't, only because I see the pain in his eyes every time he talks about the Jedi Order. Even
yeah.
though he has this idea that like whatever he's going to do is he's going to do. I do really think if the Jedi didn't go to the wayside, he might still be a Jedi. That's my feel from him.
Um possibly. You never know.
Right.
Never know.
But anyway, so they jail Sabine with those red threads, and like at this henge, Balon and Shin kind of have a off-handed conversation here. They're off to the side, and when they talk about like this place being like of dreams and madness. Balon says it's not like it doesn't seem it doesn't seem real because it was like stories to him growing up. It was never it was like a mythology to us, like talking about Zeus at the top of Mount Olympus, and actually being at the top of Mount Olympus.
Yeah, right?
It's a little different, but then there's actually magic there. It's okay, and he feels it. He feels something clearly here, and he
Yeah,
just this is when I start like just seeing this grief. This he's letting grief run his entire life. It feels like
yeah,
everything is led by this idea that he needs to just end all war everywhere for however he's going to think he's going to do that. Because he even says it's all inevitable. The
yeah.
Sith falling, then the Jedi falling, and then it
And then the
returning, and then
recycle,
the
basically, rinse and
recycle. Yeah,
repeat.
so he seeks to get back to the beginning. He said, which I
Yeah,
don't know if it's a direct time travel type thing or just more metaphorical in the way he's talking.
right. So, like, that's a good question. I don't think he's
Especially
looking.
with the world between worlds being like a thing, but like he also, yeah,
Yeah, I never really saw him as wanting to like restart the Sith or the Jedi Order, because like we hear him
no,
like,
I didn't mean that. I meant
yeah,
like no, he wants to go back time travel.
yeah. And like
That's what I'm saying. He wants to end it all. He doesn't want to have any of it because
yeah,
Balon, he says, "I seek the beginning."
the beginning of something new though.
No, he just says the beginning.
Really? Okay. I
Yeah,
always thought that he was saying the beginning of something
or he
new.
could be though. Right,
Right.
you're right on that. He could be saying that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not
Um,
100% on the because he speaks in metaphors a lot to Shin especially. So
oh yeah, absolutely he does. He's like
but the fact that he keeps saying like this cycle is going to repeat how like it's like going back and killing baby Hitler type of deal.
yeah.
It's not going to necessarily stop what he started.
Yeah.
It might actually be worse. You know what I mean? Like what so yeah, anyway, he's basically on this chaotic path and he's kind of convincing Shin to either come along with him or figure it out because like the power she seems to be after is a little more limited than the power he seems to be after, which is
Right.
we don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Because we don't really know what he like he says he has that draw and stuff here and everything like that, but we don't really know exactly what he's looking for, what like if we can quantify that to like a place yet or a thing or like a relic or an object or something,
right.
like we can't really we haven't
He's
been
not clear on what he's looking like.
yeah.
He's just basically like I said, speaking of metaphor, basically like don't you hear it like it calling to me and all
Yeah.
this stuff. He basically beckons to like some spiritual thing. It's definitely like above the audience's head. There's nothing really pointing towards what he's looking for yet. Anyway,
So
so yeah, this is back when we're back in like the makeshift cell that Sabine's in, and
I'm
she's
just
got
trying to use
the
the
force,
like force to
and for a second you think it's working, but it's actually you see something behind her
yeah.
going up, and it's the Chimera landing above basically this henge, this reflex point that they're standing at, and
Yeah.
they like comes down on top of them, and it's so cool. It's got the big chimera symbol on the bottom of it, and it's all covered in gold though. Just like it's very like hobbled together. It looks like, which is the thing that'll come up again when we
Yeah.
see Thrawn's what they call on the closed captions. I noticed night troopers, and
Yeah.
so they have there's the one guy Enoch who comes up. He has the gold mask, and it's very cool how they cobbled all these things together because it's reminding me of that Japanese art where if you break a glass or something, you fix it with gold.
Yeah.
Like it makes it a new like it makes it even more valuable than it was before. But basically, every time it breaks, you fix it with this gold thing, and yeah, it's
And
kitsugi. It's called kitsugi.
okay.
So yeah, it reminded me of that, and it was just interesting how they pull those elements of real world um, elements of things that really exist, and add them to the Star Wars universe. It's always fun.
Yeah, so the idea, so it's interesting that you call out the night trooper thing of it because I noticed a lot of them had like the red wrapping around them, and I
Yeah,
wonder, like, so Thrawn talks about later in the episode that their numbers have dwindled, and that's why he only sends out the two squadrons or whatever.
Yeah.
But I wonder now if because of what we've seen of Merrick at this point, I wonder how many of these troopers actually are just the green ghosts, like
Yeah,
green
exactly.
smokes
Either
of
that or their wounds are being healed with magic. There's something going on
yeah.
with these cloths that are being wrapped around some of the
And
with
it's very
most of the troopers, and it's so cool when they walk when this scene when you just see it when it zooms out on all these troopers who are just like it's crazy fascist imagery. Like it's
oh
very
yeah.
straight up like a Hitler rally, and but it's different too. It's more cult like where they're like tribal and they're
Yeah.
chanting and pounding their feet, and they're they seem to be rallied around Thrawn, and that's in that Hitler like
Yeah.
way. More than the Emperor ever was, because that was a little different. He was a little more
Yeah.
green and just kind of shady, and you just heard him.
Right. And
Yeah,
like he wasn't like the military guy where like you see a lot of that in like that fascist dictatorship kind of like imagery and stuff usually sometimes comes from but like again, you see a lot of that. Not saying all military leaders will like do that, but like you tend to see that
yeah,
like
for sure.
those
Either
rise
they're either
stuff.
they're cosplaying as that, or they were in the military or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so this is when we just see like the force of Thrawn for the first time, and it's just really cool to see. And this is when Thrawn finally meets his crew that came to save him and Balon have a very interesting like back and forth here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's like, because Balon's like, oh, I brought this prisoner. I thought maybe she could, you know, track down Ezra or whatever. Kind of like buying himself something. Like it seems kind of silly now that he's in front of Thrawn. Why I think, and he's kind of like, well, yeah, maybe it's a good idea to have her. And he's like, yeah, General Balon Skull, is it?
Yeah.
Jedi Order?
From
Yeah, yeah,
Jedi
you
Order.
wouldn't say that. You know what I mean? And he's like, no, no, I actually quit a long time ago. I'm not that guy anymore. So like what I was saying before with the Night Sister thing, it was like this interaction really like sealed it for me, where it was like I don't think Thrawn trusts Balon like one
Oh
bit.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I think he still senses that he's got some kind of other plan at least. And
Yeah. That
if
his
Thrawn, if nothing else, he's all about contingency plans and not he's not going to worry about some new kink in
yeah,
the.
right. um but and like I love this. And then they like when they start talking about like Sabine and like Thrawn's like, oh yes, that's a
Yeah, he knows
name
her.
that's a name I know.
Yeah,
And like so he like but he agrees, Thrawn agrees to Balon's like, no, like hey, you know, you and
I
Balon got your
promise. Yeah,
deal. Got your deal. Go looking for Ezra. That's fine. Here you go.
which was
Here's a
always kind of Thrawn's mo. He was always kind of like that. He was a man of his word. Like that's why he's a little different than Vader or something. Just like
mm-hmm.
killing off his like subordinates and stuff. He learns to work with people who are not necessarily always on his side or whatever. And he just really like tactical and cool headed and like sociopathic, and it's just very clear just from like the way he responds to people quickly and like almost he almost like it seems to know more than even you know about yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
And this is yeah. So then they have the meeting with Thrawn and Sabine, and it's like they have oh like finally a familiar face, and it's pretty cool because they did meet rebels, you know.
Yep.
So what's like how are they going to deal with this? Are they going to nope? Yeah, that all happened. That's real. And then it kind of does have that when they send off Sabine, it does have that like tribal element again, where like Enoch kind of is it's a respect thing almost. It's like warrior
Yeah.
to warrior. It's like, well, if you think you could survive on this planet by yourself, cool. Your friend's probably dead, but yeah, die
Yeah.
well. Here you go. Here's your lightsaber, and sends her
Like
off.
right. And like that's just so funny that, you know, like it's one of those things that like I really wasn't expecting Thrawn to just like go down there and have that one-on-one with her. of being like, yeah, we, like I'll give you the provisions and everything. We'll go out there. I'll give you the most up to date information we have
Right.
on Ezra Bridger and like his location and stuff.
Right. I
And it's
almost
just
for
like,
sure thought Ahsoka was going to have to bring her out.
yeah.
I didn't think just because Balon had a word had, but you know what I mean. Thrawn is also a man of his
I
word.
mean,
So like
I
those
I
two
was
those two people kind of just were the right people for Sabine to trust in that way, I guess.
yeah, I was actually even thinking that Ezra could have broken her out because Ezra being there and
Right.
being alive could have seen that ship, could have seen the Chimera like pull up shop there, being like,
Yeah.
"Hey, something's going on. Now's our time to like strike," having some sort of like plan already. And like so yeah, there was any kind of like number of things that I thought was happening, but like Thrawn just being like, "Oh yeah, here you go. Here's a holler. Here's your provisions. Here's the most up to date
Yeah.
information we have on Ezra. Go on your way, Sabine. Bye bye. Get out of
Yeah.
here.
So she dips and but before she goes, like Thrawn's kind of talking to Balon, Morgan, and all them, and
Uh huh.
or no, he kind of sends Balon off and is like, you and Shin should go track uh, Sabine, and they leave, and he says to Morgan basically like, I don't care what happens to any of them. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if any of them die. I'm just trying to get home. So if Sabine and Ezra and Balon and Shin all die, I don't care. That
If
has nothing
they
to do
if they all get stranded
with
here, that's
yeah,
an
yeah.
equal win in my book too.
Correct.
Like death or strand or them being stranded here, equal
Right.
wins. They're
Death or Brandon doesn't matter. Yeah. And then
yeah.
this is when like Sabine's off and we see her on planet now with on that howler, which is so cool. It's kind of like this horse dog.
Yeah.
And it she's quickly interrupted by like some like
Some nomads and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
some local gang basically.
Uh-huh.
Like bandits. And they
Yeah,
come
and but they're
she
all
takes
dressed up, but they're all dressed up in like red wear, and it almost looks like what we ended up seeing a little bit like a different kind of design of like what we saw as some of those red Imperial guards in like the sequel trilogy that would like be after this in like Snoke's room and stuff.
I know you
Like,
mean like with the line.
like it's not a direct like link. It would be
Oh
like
yeah, I know
an
you mean.
evolution of it, or like step one of, or like step two before they got to that final one. But like it felt linked a
Right.
little bit
I know
to
what you mean. Well, to your point, like the Sith were originally supposed to look like what the Night Sisters looked like, and
yeah,
then they brought that back for Clone Wars or whatever. So it is
yeah,
kind of like a historical planet that we're on right now that they came from apparent like that
yeah,
someone came from and like started because they have stories of this place and whatever. So like
right,
and Morgan talks about how like her ancestors used to travel on to use the Purgil to travel through
yeah.
galaxies or whatever. So there is some connection here, and it makes sense that cultures would borrow from each other. So it does make sense. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. But yeah, so like Sabine is like attacked by the nomads, her like, scanner and stuff is like destroyed. I love that she started out with her Mandalorian training, and that really wasn't getting her anywhere in that like really close combat range. She breaks out the lightsaber and murks them all.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
easy
It's
business.
almost the opposite of the first time she did that,
Yes.
where like she relied on her Mandalorian training, and it kind of got her out of a pinch. Where this time she was relying too heavily on her Mandalorian training. Where I think the goal for her is always going to have to be to balance those two things. Like
Yeah.
use both. Don't ever
Mhm.
rely one or the other. Always use both because you're not just a Jedi and just a Mandalorian. You're both. So she's gonna have to figure that out, the balance or whatever. But it was awesome to see like this time her just going off with the
Yeah.
lightsaber. Like her training's paying off because if you watch Rebels, she did get trained quite a bit with the
Yeah.
dark saber and by Ezra and Kanan. So she does have some grounding
Mhm.
in lightsaber.
But we also
But
know
like compared to another person that knows how to use a lightsaber, no, she's not that great. You know what I mean?
right. But we
but
also
compared
know
to an
that
average person.
The dark saber acts though differently
Oh yeah,
than what we would call our conventional
but
lightsaber.
she even had to work through that and
Yeah,
was pretty proficient. But she didn't use it that often, to be honest, though.
right.
But she did go through some training with Kanan, and yeah, it's interesting to rewatch some of that stuff
Hmm.
because because Kanan kind of gets annoyed with her that she has like a blockage of the Force and she's not like allowing it in. You know what I mean? Because he also says like the Force isn't everything, but like you have to kind of allow it
Yeah.
through you. But if you
Um. So then, yeah, then we get to the we get a quick cut of Balon and Shin leaving the tower. We get the conversation where Thrawn is like, "All right, all of you, like same with Hottie and Skull. If they don't make it out of there, they don't make it out of there, or whatever."
yeah,
We get to we're back into the Puridia um
right, like the
wastelands,
yeah, and
and
this is when Sabine's like yelling at her
at her
holler
holler
for
for
ditching
like
her.
leaving her and stuff
Yeah,
because like the holler during that nomad attack just like abandoned her, and she's like, you left me, why
yeah.
would you do that? So
And
that's
then
all
it
like,
eventually kind of like it nuzzles up to her and she forgets
yeah,
it. And it kind of makes a cool move by being like, I smell something, by the way.
yeah,
You want to go check this out?
hey, I smell something over here. And then I love on how it's like, what is it, is it the noti, maybe
Yeah,
it's or,
Naughty.
or, or the naughty.
I don't
um
know how to say it, but yeah. But
uh,
it's these super cool rock dudes, and
yeah,
they like this
they're
dude
like
like
turtle rocks.
yeah, he's like this little turtle guy who comes up and he is like very scared at first, but then Sabine calms him down, and then she notices he's got the rebel symbol.
No,
On,
he notices on her shoulder pad.
yeah, so he's like, "Look, I got that
and,
too,"
and then he
and
and then
yeah,
he's like Supermaning it. He's like, see,
right,
I got one of those too, man. I got a little crest. And
exactly.
she's like, where'd you get, Ezra
You
Bridger?
know Ezra, and
And
then all of
like,
a sudden, a bunch of other ones come up, a bunch of other Nazi come up and kind of surround each other, and they're talking amongst themselves, and then they say, "She's like, do you know Ezra Bridger?" And they're like, "Ezra Bridger, yeah, we know him."
yeah,
And
yeah,
like, they decide there to take her to Ezra. But that's when we cut back to Balon and Shin, and
yep,
they're having this conversation back and forth. And it does seem like Balon's trying to explain to her that she's going to have to make her own choice. You're going to have to either follow me or go after power on your own means. And it does seem like they're setting up different paths at this point.
yeah.
But before that ever happens, those bandits come again, and Shin's like, let's get him, and Balon's like, chill, enemy of our enemy, and all that.
It's our friend for
Yeah,
now.
yeah, exactly. So that cuts, and then we go back to basically Ezra and Sabine reuniting, and it's a really cool scene. It's touching. It's good to see like the brother sister dynamic back at play. Um, and Sabine says something really funny because in Rebels, Ezra was always like half cocked with all of his plans, and she's like, "Always a plan, never a good one." Ezra like kind of quickly responds, "He's like, hey, it worked, didn't it?" Because he doesn't know, he has no idea. He could have done all this for nothing, right? Like the Empire still could have won, whatever. But she quickly is like, "No, yeah, it was you did a good thing." And he kind of tries pulling out of her like how she got there and what happened, and she doesn't want to talk about it yet.
And she's like, hey, let me just have let's just have the awesome time of us being reunited here together. Let's just enjoy the moment, and we'll talk the fine details later.
We'll get into
And
it.
it's like, bro,
Yeah,
what?
yeah. Ezra really looks like Jesus for sure. Like he just
Yeah,
but he looks just like Ezra did in the show, just with a beard, and he
yeah,
walks just like Ezra, and he's got that same energy, and he's not like. I'm glad they didn't go like, oh, he's like this depressed. You know what I mean? Like, because that's just not Ezra's character. Even though, yes, he of course he would be depressed and lonely and all this, but like, he's definitely still got spirit, some kind of spirit about him. That's pure Ezra.
right, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
and he's
and
got the
so
cool chainmail on and stuff. It's really interesting.
yeah, he he looks like he kind of looks like almost like an unarmored knight, except for like chainmail in that sense, if that kind of makes sense. Like he's got that like kind of loose, kind of garby stuff on, but he's got that like again, like you were saying, the chainmail kind of throughout that you can kind of see and everything. Um, it's great. He's got those like great big blue eyes and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And like,
And
but yeah, seeing
they're
Ezra,
just kind of going back and forth and giving each other like crap, like they always do. But like, it is funny because like they basically don't say anything, and she just kind of recaps what happens to him, and they like without saying without giving away actually anything. And this is when they cut back to the on the Chimera now,
yeah,
and
on Thrawn's ship
Thrawn,
and
yeah, Thrawn walks up to the
Night
Great
Sister.
Mothers,
Yeah,
and they basically are like, we sense another Jedi coming.
they're like the threat of fate.
Yeah, exactly. I
It's
love how their voices
Spartans.
are like when the one speaks. It's like kind of like there's more than one voice coming from.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very cool, and it just they're clearly very powerful witches. But this is Thrawn's kind of like, he knows right away. He's like, it's Ahsoka, even though
Mhm.
you said she was dead and all that. Like, you underestimate your enemy. I get it, but Balon should have known better, and maybe you should have thought twice before just assuming the Jedi was dead. Uh,
Mhm.
and he like kind of turns to the Great Mothers and is like, "We're gonna need to use that dark magic ears again." And they're
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, gotcha, boss."
Yeah. Well, and the Night Sisters are like, well, they're coming on the like travelers, and he's like, well, we got to make sure that those travelers don't like break the atmosphere and
Yeah,
like get into the and like allow them to get here or whatever. And
yeah, just like shoot them as soon as they get. Yeah,
yeah, basically, and then we get Thrawn also turning back to like Morgan being like, all right, I need her background, her history, homeworld, who her master was. If a star whale approaches, destroy it with absolute prejudice. And that, and yeah,
absolute tactician.
the last line is where he's like, you know, I require the aid of your dark magic, and then the great mothers are like, the thread demands it,
Yeah, exactly.
and then
Which
we
again
just
goes
like,
back to the Greek myths of the thread of
yeah,
fate and all this that. But yeah, they're like, yeah, they're down. They're definitely down.
yeah,
Uh,
all of it was awesome. I
Yeah,
loved
this was a really cool introduction to Throne. Really cool. Like they just put Ahsoka to the side in this episode. They were like, we're gonna give you one scene, and then we're gonna
well,
basically give this episode to Thrawn and Sabine,
yeah.
basically, in my opinion.
If I'm being honest, I love that they just brought back Lars Malkinson
Oh, the
from
best.
Rebels and stuff. That they just gave him like that 1-to-1 live action and stuff, and just like let him cook, because
Yeah,
like he's great in it. I
fits
loved
perfectly.
I loved him and Balon together and everything. Like this was a really solid episode of this show. I really enjoyed it. I'm excited for episode 7 and 8. You know, we've only got two more basically left after this, so this is very exciting.
Oh yeah.
Um, I don't know. You got any final comments before we wrap it up here?
No, that was it.
Okay, cool. Then I am JimmE with the Triple C Collective, and
I'm Collin.
we want to thank you all for joining us today for Ahsoka Part 6, Far, Far Away. Hope you all stay safe. Please like and subscribe to this video and to our channel. And as always, may the Force be with you. Ow!